I saw a headline. Other people have called Massachusetts now. It's going to be Hillary. I saw that she was, let's get the final, most recent number. We've got 82% in, and she's up by 2.6 points. So still about half of what she was leading at when you aggregated all the polls and averaged them out. And Vox's tweet was, Hillary Clinton pulls off surprise victory in Massachusetts. Well, like, yeah, I'm sure she's happy, and it wasn't impossible that he would win. But the thing that's pissing me off, and I was reading about it, and so they're all saying it was must win. Just that one in particular. Yeah, fuck Colorado, doesn't matter. Fuck 20 points in Minnesota, it doesn't matter. He wasn't guaranteed to win Minnesota at all, but 20 points still doesn't matter. If you say that him apparently losing in Massachusetts by 3 points in a race where the delegates are allocated proportionally, just give up on the whole, well, we're just reporting the news.
Yes!
It only means, a victory only means what you want it to mean, and it is so obvious what you want it to mean on most of these sites. The idea that the future of America should depend on whether 1.5% of primary voters in Massachusetts could go one way, maybe they could go the other way. And because they went the other way, oh, it's over. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it. $40 million raised, 1.3 million contributions. Fuck it. Doesn't matter. Get out of here. Get out of here. You got nothing. It's bullshit. It is just projection of what they want to exist. If she ends up winning, and I understand she's going to come out of this with way more delegates, that's a fact. She has more delegates. She has more superdelegates as well, which is a different sad fact about America, but that's also true. If she ends up winning, then we will say she won, and we will, support her. Maybe not super enthusiastically, but we'll support her. But the idea that this thing is over, that it doesn't matter that he pulled out wins in multiple states that was by no means guaranteed that he was going to win. Nobody had a fucking clue about what was going to happen in Colorado except me. Nobody knew. Yeah. But he ends up winning decisively in Colorado. We can see the breakdown demographically. Again, independents, he wins by something like 20 points. He crushes amongst Republicans, which is admittedly a small part of a Democratic primary, but it's the crossover potential. And not only does that not matter, and he should drop out, but she's also more electable, even though all of the ways that you determine electability swing in the exact opposite direction. These are some sites that when they're not talking about the horse race on the Democratic side, they make all the sense in the world, they do great work, and they seemingly have a very strong attachment to looking at the actual facts and gathering data. But when it comes to this, their bias for Hillary Clinton is ridiculous. I understand some people are going to say, well, you guys are biased for Bernie Sanders. I'm fucking obviously biased. I'm not lying, okay? I'm not like, oh, well, I've seen the poll. I think this could go either way. Right. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply reading the numbers, and you know who I support. So they're the ones pretending that they're CNN when they're not. Although CNN also probably for Hillary Clinton.
And so let's remember that a guy who was down by, I think, 1,005 points just a couple months ago came back to win tonight. Colorado, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Vermont, and almost a tie in Massachusetts.
Sounds like Howard Dean.
And then he lost. And then he loses the southern states that Democrats lose all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And now we move on to the part of the campaign that favors Bernie. Yeah, do not freak out.
Okay.
I freaked out a little bit, admittedly. I freaked out a little bit.
All right. Listen, John is absolutely right. If you're covering this objectively, and as you can tell from the beginning of the broadcast, I told you who I think where the decisive points were. And I said Massachusetts was a decisive point, and Colorado and Minnesota were the other decisive points. Mm-hmm. Everything else was already pretty much decided, except we weren't sure about Oklahoma. It's a small state. Bernie Sanders wins it. That's a nice win, okay? But I wouldn't hang my hat on that. But as it turns out, I thought if he lost Colorado and Minnesota and then he lost Massachusetts, that's super bad, and I said it in the beginning of the broadcast, right? As it turns out, he did lose Massachusetts, but he won Colorado and Minnesota. And the loss of Massachusetts was a small loss, right? And so, again, John's right about that. The delegate count will be nearly identical coming out of Massachusetts. At the end of the day, we have to see how many delegates do they win. That's the critical part here. If you're a Sanders supporter, you should be wildly encouraged.
I agree.
If in the beginning of the night you were worried because she racked up all those southern states right away, I get it. But remember, she was always going to win those. And Jimmy made a point there that I hadn't thought of. I mean, again, if we're talking about electability, the Democratic candidate is very unlikely to win the South anyway, right? So in the states we need to win, right? Bernie Sanders is doing better.
Swing states.
For example, New Hampshire is a swing state, right? And Bernie Sanders won it by 22 points. South Carolina is not a swing state. Look at all the states that she's won. Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee. We're never going to win them. The only way that we win those states is if Bernie Sanders is the candidate and Ted Cruz is the Republican candidate. Because according to a CNN poll today, Bernie Sanders beats Ted Cruz by 17 points.
It's amazing.
If he beats him by 17 points, yeah, then maybe we win Tennessee and maybe even Alabama, right? Even that seems unimaginable, right? So her strength is, when you talk about the general election, is in areas that are nearly irrelevant. His strength is in areas that are enormously relevant. Colorado, Minnesota, these are all swing states. All places where he crushed her, right? And so the whole idea that, oh, Hillary's a big winner tonight, which every freaking media outlet is covering on TV and on all the websites that we're checking tonight, it's just wrong. And so why do they do it? I think there's two different reasons. One is, yes, for the corporate-owned giants that are television, et cetera, there is some conservative bias there, right? They don't know, but everybody in the building has been hired to not rock the boat. If you rock the boat, I don't know if you're ready for TV. I mean, there's 1,000 different coded language they use to make sure they keep you off the air. The guys who are ready for TV are the ones who are not going to bring you any change, or they're going to keep the status quo exactly as it is, okay? Now, but the second part of it is, for all the websites that otherwise, as John pointed out, do good reporting and care about the facts, most of them are in Washington. Their reporters are in Washington, their editors are in Washington, and they live in a bubble where you can't feel that bubble because you don't live there. Every time I go to Washington, I see it and I feel it. For them, it's Hillary Clinton. It's obviously Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is obviously Hillary Clinton. Anyone who thinks it's Bernie Sanders is a radical, doesn't understand politics. We're the adults in the room. It's Hillary Clinton. Even if you're not one of those people, but you live in a bubble filled with those people, you can't help but get affected by that. So that's why on a night like this, everyone you know is writing Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton. And if I'm an editor there, I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Didn't we just say before the election started on this night, Minnesota, Colorado, and Massachusetts are the most important states?
Yeah.
But you guys all wrote the headlines before any of those three came in, even before she won Massachusetts. You already had the headline that she won overwhelmingly, and it's definitely her versus Donald Trump. If I was an editor that actually cared about the news, I'd have to consider firing you. Right?
Where are those editors?